Are you all set?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. I'll do a quick intro on you.
All right.
Hey, welcome to the Travel Winds Podcast. Today my guest is the esteemed, distinguished Bob Eubanks. He has won multiple Emmys. He has got a star on the Walk of Fame, a DJ, TV show host, author, father, husband, team roper, which is about as cool as it gets. How are you today, Bob?
I'm just fine. I didn't know I did all of that stuff. What do you know?
You did, and
yeah, I know I did. I'm just teasing you.
Plenty more actually. I was trying to figure out how much do I include and how much do we just talk about. Wow, knowing that I have the background with the Western industry, and then seeing you at being the actually at NFR in Vegas and in Oklahoma City. How big of a deal was that for you back in the day?
What, the rodeos?
Yeah,
it was a big deal for me because, I grew up. I rode in the Coliseum Rodeo when I was 11 years old in front of 100,000 people. Roy Rogers was the Grand Marshal, I think. Anyway, I've been a cowboy all my life. I ended up, having horses. I was even on the board of directors of the Tony Lama Boot Company at one time. But we had a ranch where I used to rope a lot. I've just raised like a cowboy, and yeah. I guess that's what I was for a long time, but not anymore.
Well, yeah, no, I hear you. I went on a team roping horse a couple of years ago, and it spooked me when we got back in the gate. That horse knew what to do, and I didn't.
Oh yeah, the ears go up and they start moving back and forth, and they love the horses. The good roping horses love to do it.
I wanted to be a heeler, but I can't throw a heel rope. But
well, I didn't. I was never a heeler either. I was always a header, yes. And I've seen too many guys get their thumbs cut off heeling. So
sounds like some of my friends. Yeah,
yeah. It's what happens, I guess.
Yeah, it's the when they dally down instead of dallying up. So.
Yep.
I love seeing the pictures. Some of your old promos. You have your black ostrich boots on. You got your Teju lizard boots on. That's
I'm sorry. The which one?
Yeah. I saw a promo picture of you on your website, and you have some black ostrich roper boots on.
Oh yeah, well, I still work with my ostrich boots all the time. That's where I feel comfortable. And here again, when I was in the Tony Lama board of directors, I didn't take money. I took boots.
Heck yeah, smart man.
So I got a few.
Well, I guess that goes back to you being the promoter for Merle Haggard, and then managing Dolly Parton, Barbara Mandrell, Marty Robbins.
Yeah, I was in the rock and roll business for a lot of years. I did the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Dylan and all those people. And I got kind of tired of the whole rock and roll thing. And I was raised with country music. Mm-hmm. My parents are a couple of hillbillies from Missouri. And so I decided I wanted to stay in the concert business, but I wanted to do something that was different. And I went to Capitol Records and I said, "Who's your big star coming up?" And the guy didn't even pause. He said, "Merle Haggard." So I called Merle's manager, Charles Fuzzy Owen, and he invited me down to a concert hall a couple of weeks later. And I went down and met Merle, and they had known that I was in the rock and roll business. And so I ended up walking out, signing Merle to an exclusive contract where I produced all of his live events for 10 years. And he and I never had a cross word. I have some great Merle Haggard stories, but he was amazing, I'll tell you.
And just a salt of the earth guy. I mean, I know he was up in the Bakersfield area because I go up there in Oildale, and
yeah,
it's
Hag was you listen to his music sometimes and it's so beautiful, but there's another side of Merle. He escaped from 13 institutions by the time he was 18. He spent 2 years and 9 months in San Quentin. But he was wonderful. He truly was wonderful.
How cool? I mean, obviously you were going through it at the time, but obviously you get to reflect back how cool that was to be able to manage Dolly Parton and Merle Haggard and be a promoter for. I mean, I don't know that anybody.
Well, I didn't manage Merle. I
No.
didn't manage Merle. I only produced his concerts, but I did manage Dolly. And I think the biggest mistake I ever made in my business was I signed Dolly and managed her for 2 years. And one day in Nashville, she came to me and she says, "I can't take it anymore." I said, "What's the matter, hon?" She says, "The guys here in Nashville are really putting pressure on me because I have a West Coast manager." Wow. I said, "Well, I understand totally." So we parted ways. And a year later, she gave me a call. She was at the Beverly Hills Hotel and said, "Can we have a meeting?" I said, "Sure." So I went down there and she said, "Would you manage me again?" I said, "Oh, Dolly, I've got so much on the books. I just couldn't give you enough time that you deserve." And that was a very big mistake because she's worth $600 million right now,
and still going,
and still going. And she's a wonderful person. She is just a delight. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody say a bad word about her.
There is no bad word about Dolly, really.
Well, of all the places you visited over the decades, what's been the most influential place that you went to and visited?
Places I've visited. Ooh, that's a tough one, man. I really don't know how to answer that simply because I've been involved in so many. I used to know a disc jockey, Dick Biondi, who used to do record hops for the Mafia in Chicago. I've known so many people and been so many places, but I love where I live right now. I'm telling you. And that's in Southern California.
No, I happen to enjoy it with you.
I'll tell you, Washington D.C. I took Merle Haggard. We got a call one time from President Nixon, and he wanted Haggard to come to the White House for his wife's birthday. And it was funny watching Henry Kissinger clap off time to Okie from Muskogee, I'll tell you. But, that was a fun time, I think, and we had a good time there.
Well, you mentioned Roy Rogers. I interviewed Cheryl Rogers Burnett, his oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, how many... you have great Buddy Hackett stories and great Cary Grant stories. Who... Of all the people you met, who do you wish you would have had more time with?
Well, because I was raised a cowboy, and Roy Rogers and Gene Autry were the most important people in the world to me. But the people I would like to have spent, you're asking me some tough questions, my friend.
Sorry.
That's okay. But, I did the Rose Parade for Channel 5 in Los Angeles for 34 years.
Yeah.
And I remember one year Roy was the Grand Marshal, and he was on the back of a Cadillac, he and his wife Dale, and waving to the audience and everything. But the problem was that Roy forgot to go to the bathroom. And so there was no place to stop along that 5.5 mile route. So they were covered up with a blanket. So Roy, he just peed in his boot.
Well, he solved that problem.
Yeah, and then another time, he was the Grand Marshal of the Coliseum Rodeo, and he brought the Sons of the Pioneers with him.
Nice.
And I was in a tunnel there and waiting for Roy and the Pioneers to be introduced. And so the guy that sold Roy Trigger, Glenn Randall, I think, he was standing there holding Trigger. And Trigger was a stallion. And so the Pioneers were there. And the fiddle player of the Sons of the Pioneers tickled trigger on his male parts. And here comes Roy out, and son of a gun, Trigger's got 5 legs. So Glenn Randall grabbed that fiddle bow and whacked old Trigger, and Roy went out. Trigger only had 4 legs.
Oh my God. That's an awesome story.
I'm writing a book right now, man, short stories about big people. And I've got a ton of stories about almost everybody.
And that's going to be a book?
Yeah, it's going to be a book. And then I hope to be able to give speeches. At my age, I'm trying to design things that work for me. And I go to these Comic-Con conventions, and I have Beatle memorabilia, all kinds of game show stuff. And then I do a thing called Cameo. And Cameo is, let's say your audience had someone they wanted to do something nice for. They would log on to Cameo and then search my name, Bob Eubanks. And I would cut a video congratulating or talking to the person they want to talk about. And it's just wonderful. It really, but here again, it's something that a guy at my age can do, so that's what's happening.
You had the Beatles poster, which you sell, and that's, I'm actually looking at buying one of those.
Well, what happened? The Beatles didn't have any merchandise. And, their manager, Brian Epstein, I believe, cost them millions of dollars for 2 reasons. Number one, all 3 years I produced their concert, he would not let me charge more than $7 for a ticket. Well, McCartney played SoFi Stadium here in Southern Cal not too long ago, and there were some $2,500 tickets in the first row,
Yeah, absolutely.
But they had no merchandise, and he would only let me charge $7 top. And I happen to believe that cost them millions of dollars, really.
It really had to. I saw that picture of you. You were standing on a stage, it looks like, behind them at a press conference or whatever. And
well, what happens before each concert, I had to have a press conference. So in '64, I had it at a little nightclub, a young adult nightclub, no booze, called Cinnamon Cinder. And we went from there to the Hollywood Bowl. And then second year, the press conference was at Capitol Records. And the third year, it was at Dodger Stadium, but it was kind of a bad deal because Lennon had just made the comment, we're more popular than Jesus Christ. And they were just defending that. And I felt sorry for Lennon because he really didn't mean it the way it sounded, really.
Yeah, especially, it's got to be interesting. Like, there's so much media now available to everybody through their phones, and back then it was AM radio and a couple news channels.
That's it.
So, I mean,
and it's a good thing we didn't have technology back then because Lennon would have really been in trouble or more trouble.
Well, I always think back. I talked to some of the musicians from a while back, and I'm like, can you imagine? I mean, the convenience of traveling now is a lot easier. I mean, I can get on the phone right now on my phone and book a flight to Europe while I'm taking an Uber to the airport.
Yeah, we're just letting technology take over, though. It really concerns me.
Yeah.
I myself, darn, I forgot my telephone. Give me a break.
Yeah, but I'd look at it and go, the Cameo thing. It's a great way for you to interact with your fans.
Yeah. You heard what happened to the president this morning, didn't you?
No.
He had to go to the hospital. He couldn't stop Putin.
I like that. That's a clean joke. I like that.
Yeah.
That'll go perfectly with my audience.
Okay.
Yeah. I know you still travel. You're still doing some of the Comic-Cons and that type of thing. and you've got a couple coming up. Do you still enjoy traveling, or is it just part of the job?
No, the travel is the toughest part. You know, when I parted from Merle, I said, I just can't handle it anymore, Hag. It's just the travel was killing me. And he wouldn't fly. He would only take a bus. And, but travel is tough. But I do very little traveling right now, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. Unless I do a Beatles show. You know, I have a Beatles show. It's called Backstage with the Beatles. And I tell seldom or never before heard stories that lead up to music, and I have a Beatle band on stage with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's a good show. We've done really, really well with it. But I've changed it a little bit this coming year because the Beatles had a hit record called Drive My Car. So in the middle of the Beatles show, I'm going to give someone a chance to win a brand new car. So we'll see if that works or not.
When are you doing that?
Well, I've got one at Pepperdine University later in the year, but I hope to book more around here. And I buy insurance for the car, see, so it doesn't cost anybody.
Yeah, it still blows me away that you actually had to put up your house as collateral to get the Beatles to play at the Hollywood Bowl. I mean, I don't know how many promoters would do that nowadays. I
was making $12,500 a year, man.
Wow.
You know, and I didn't have $25,000 to put down. So my business partner and I, we had a house there in Hidden Hills. And I went into the one bank, the first bank, and the guy threw me out. He said, "You're crazy." You know, he'd never heard of the Beatles. But I went to a little storefront bank in Woodland Hills, and they had just repoed a motorcycle. It was leaking oil all over the floor. But the manager of the bank, her son was a Beatle fan. So she agreed to loan me the $25,000 on the house. And that's how it all came down.
I mean, I can't even imagine that story now in today's world.
Oh, I know. He wanted, Brian Epstein wanted more money at the Hollywood Bowl than anybody had ever made, to guarantee. Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald, people like that, were working with like a $15,000 thing. And so Brian wanted $25,000. So what are you going to do? You know.
But yeah, I'm trying to. Back then, how did you get in touch with people? I mean, like, because now, I mean, obviously we just Google it and you find their phone number and call them. And
yeah, it was tough. They signed. I had this young adult nightclub, Cinnamon Cinders, and the Beatles signed with the agency GAC, General Artists Corporation, and I would buy talent every week for my nightclubs from GAC. You know, the Righteous Brothers and the Everly Brothers and Ike and Tina. So I was a talent buyer, and I was also a disc jockey on the hot station in LA. So I had 2 bullets in my gun, see. And that's how I got involved with, when they announced that they were going to tour, I said, I want them. I got them.
Is that the best decision you've made, business-wise?
Yeah, I guess. You know, I've done a lot of wonderful things, though.
I know.
You know,
I mean, just
Newlywed Game was a real blast. I did that off and on for 5 decades, and the Rose Parade I did for 34 years, and Hollywood Christmas Parade, that was fun. And it's, you know, I've just had a good time. I really have.
Well, do you think is that the secret to success? Having fun along the way?
Well, no, I think that the secret is you take what you know how to do and try to apply it in other areas. And that's basically what I've done. You know, when I was producing rock and roll concerts, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I took what I knew about it and went to country music. And the same thing with the game shows. You know, I learned how to make people talk. And I had 4 couples on the stage. If I got a funny answer from one couple, I could look at the other 3, and I knew where my next funny answer was coming from.
There you go.
I just learned those things, and that's what's helped me, I believe.
I totally agree with that. That's actually a really very, very insightful, because I'm in sales and I sell Western clothing and all that, but I enjoy talking to people and sharing their stories. So,
well, when I walk into a meeting with an individual that I've never met before, I immediately look and see what pictures he has on his desk or on his wall. And before the meeting starts, I ask a question. Wow, is that your daughter? How long when did she graduate? Because I found out that people don't want to know about you. They want you to know about them. And it sets the meeting off perfectly, I'm telling you.
So I could not agree more, actually. That's sales 101 whenever I go into an account and got to talk.
Yeah.
Did you learn that at the young age, or is that just something you were like, hey, I wish I would have known that a while ago?
I learned it when I got into business.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't know anything about business. I'm still computer illiterate, for God's sake. But I just learned it as I was doing things, and all of a sudden I said, wow, that was good.
Well, it didn't hurt that you had the voice for radio, right?
Didn't hurt. I used to work at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood when I got out of high school, and but I got fired from there. I was up on a ladder cleaning the marquee, wiping it down, and this is on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
And these two guys come by, and as they got to my ladder, they punched it, and it had wheels on it. I'm rolling down Hollywood Boulevard, So I got back up on the ladder and started cleaning again, and pretty soon I see them coming back. And just as they got to my ladder, I slid down, grabbed the little broom that was there, and hit this guy right in the back of the head. And as I hit him, the manager walked out of the box office, and he said, "You're fired." I said, "Okay." So when I was lucky enough to get my star on the Walk of Fame, they asked me where I wanted it. I said, "I want it in front of the Egyptian Theater." And that's where it is.
That's awesome. So you'll always be where you got fired.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I worked at Lockheed Aircraft one time. My dad was a barber, and he cut the hair of a guy that worked out at Lockheed. And I needed a job, so here again, I'm very unmechanical. I shouldn't even own a toolbox. So I remember walking on the third day, I was supposed to do some crazy thing to an airplane or something. Anyway, on the way in, this guy dropped dead in front of me.
Ooh. And
I picked up my toolbox and quit. That's the only real job I've ever had, I think.
Well, outside of entertainment, right? Because...
Well, I delivered furniture for $2 an hour when I was in high school. Yeah.
Well, I think we've all had... Well, I don't know about today's kids, but I mean, heck, yeah. My first real job was working at a full service gas station, and I have to explain.
Oh, wow!
I have to explain to people what that is.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, well, I delivered furniture at a Chinese furniture store in Pasadena, California, and I made $2 an hour. They had a warehouse, and one time, being the jerk that I was, I put a little note in a chair in the warehouse that said, "Help, I'm being held hostage at the Lowen Sun." One day I drive in, the cops are there. Oh, shit.
Yeah,
anyway.
They're like, well, he's not meant for furniture.
Yep.
What do you think do you think your career would have been different if you had the technology that they have today?
Yeah, probably, but I don't think I would have been as successful because, there's a big fight right now over artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could get very serious. Really could. I had something happen to me recently that I'm very upset about, and I still don't know how to handle it, but there was a movie out called Holdovers. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Oh.
It's a really good movie. But Miramax put me in that movie without asking me.
Ooh.
And didn't want to pay me. And I went to the union, and they said, well, if it's under 3 minutes, they can do that. Well, I timed it. My wife timed it. I was a little over 6 minutes with voice and picture, and they showed a clip of the Newlywed Game, and it supported the storyline of the movie. And I feel very upset about it. I got to tell you that right now. It just isn't fair that they would do that.
I've seen. I don't know if you've seen how they're using AI to record people's voices. And
yes,
I saw a remake of a new song that Elvis Presley sung with Chester Bennington, who's a current, who's also passed away. So you had two musical artists that passed away sang a new song.
Wow.
And it sounded
a new
just
song.
Like them. Because they had recorded their voice and got all the characteristics of their singing voices, and then wrote a new song and put it together. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like it was a new song.
Well, they put me in this movie, Holdovers, and they didn't ask me. They didn't tell me. They said they tried to contact my agent. Well, I didn't have an agent. All I had to do is go to the union and get my information, for gosh sake.
Yeah, they
didn't even put me in the credits at the end of the movie. It was
that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it really does disturb me that they could do something like that. But what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, you got to fight it. That's you think about. That's why they went on strike. The directors went on strike, and the writers went on strike, and the actors went on strike.
I don't know. All I know is I didn't have an agent, and I can't find an attorney that would do it. Well, they all want this big, enormous hourly wage,
Yeah.
And I just said, no bueno.
Oh, bueno. Yeah.
Hey, one time I met Cary Grant over at Buddy Hackett's house, and I was amazed. Cary Grant was a big actor at the time, and he said, I had to sit next to you at dinner. I said, why? He said, well, Barbara and I watch the Newlywed Game every night. He said, Cary Grant watches the Newlywed Game? He said, oh, yeah, we're a real couple. I said, what do you mean you're a real couple? He said, we only have one toothbrush.
Ooh.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
Kind of hope you would think he would share, but not have.
That's
to
one of my stories in the book, by the way.
There you go. Is Cary Grant? I mean, what other celebrities did you meet where you were blown away? Was it just?
Well, being a cowboy, at one time at the Hollywood Christmas parade before it started, I walked backstage and there was Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, and Hopalong Cassidy all sitting talking. Just blew me away.
Yeah.
I thought. And one time I was sitting on an airplane next to Neil Armstrong, the guy who went to the moon.
Yeah, first man on the moon.
Yeah, and he told me some great stories too. That was an interesting flight. But I never met Elvis.
Really?
I never met Elvis, even though his manager was a real piece of work. Oh my God!
My wife met him, Colonel Parker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she worked at New York, and Las Vegas. And he was a regular.
Yes.
And he was
in fact, Elvis had to work 2 or 3 free weeks one time because Parker had lost so much money gambling he had to pay it back.
Yep. Yeah, he was wife wasn't a big fan of him.
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, he thought he was going to get drafted after he got here illegally, So he started eating, and he got to 306 pounds. And he knew that they wouldn't draft him at that weight.
Because he was too big.
God.
So, do you travel with your wife? Does she travel out with you, or is she busy with her own stuff?
No, my beautiful, beautiful wife is the number one wedding planner in the county we live in.
Yep.
And she's just amazing. We have a young son who's a straight A student down at San Diego State, and I'm very blessed. I really am.
But she doesn't travel when you have to go out?
No. We have two different careers, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I have 4 kids. My oldest son is a retired LA County fireman. He travels with me if I have to travel for a Beatles show or anything like that.
Okay.
And I have a daughter who lives down in Orange County, California. And my one son, Corey, is the number one stunt man in the industry. He's amazing. That's all I can tell you. But he's doubled some of the big ones. He's made a lot of money, I'll tell you.
Well, that's it. But my wife is usually busy with her own stuff until I have to go to my Hawaii accounts, and then her schedule opens up. Well,
you know, I'm doing a big convention coming up in Burbank, California. But my wife has a wedding that weekend, so it works fine. You know.
Of course.
She was an actress and a model. She was Miss Colorado. She won $100,000 on Star Search. Oh, and I said, I better marry that chick. And so we have the one son, and she is a perfectionist. I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. I come back, the bed's made, you know, all those things.
No, that's what it takes, right? I'm my oldest daughter's getting married in September, and she's doing her wonderful planning.
Well, my wife's company is Bella Vita Events, and she is a perfectionist. She's won all kinds of awards, and she's just amazing. That's all I can tell you.
Well, just for that, I'll make sure to put a link on my website for her.
Absolutely, Bella Vita Events, Ventura County.
Bella Vita. You got it. You know, and
Boy,
you mentioned
good.
You have the Quiz Show Expo coming up at the end of the month.
I'm sorry, I have a what?
You have the Quiz Show Expo in Burbank?
Oh, yeah. The Quiz Show Expo is the last day of May, first day of June. And it's at the Marriott Hotel in Burbank, there by the airport. And it's a quiz show expo. And they've booked a lot of quiz show personalities to be there. And I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun, you know.
Yeah, that's a whole the idea behind the expos, the Comic-Cons, and all that. It's its own deal. I mean, it's amazing.
It really is.
I have a couple guests. One was a Power Ranger, and he now literally makes a living going to these Comic-Cons and selling the merch.
I know a guy, and I won't mention his name, that made $250,000 on Cameo one year. You can imagine that from his front room.
Yep.
So I guess technology is good. But I like to go to the conventions, and I sell 8x10 photos and memorabilia, and meet some nice people, and it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I went. My nephew he makes comics, and so I went to a Comic-Con one time. It was my first time, and it's very cool in some ways. Lou Ferrigno will be there, and then just all these people from your past. So it's a great opportunity. So if you're in the LA area at the end of May, early June, come to the Quiz Show Expo.
It's the last day of May. I think we're 10 to 4 on the first day, and then we're like 12 to 8 on the second day. But it's at the Marriott Hotel over by the Burbank Airport. And God, you'll have a good time, believe me.
And then if you're not close by, we can get you on Cameo.
Oh yeah.
And then you got do you think that's
what
keeps
I do
you
is,
young?
yeah, I guess so. What I do is I say, hey, this is Bob Eubanks. Hey, I want to congratulate you because your daughter told me that you're the best mom in the world. So congratulations. That's the kind of a story.
Yeah. Well, it's so fun. You get to interact with your fans still.
Yeah.
So it's a great way. Is there anything else that we need to talk about before I let you go?
No, I don't think so. I'm just very blessed to be around this long. 86 years old, but still out there rocking and rolling, bopping and strolling. So.
Are you still only buying Tony Lama boots, or can I help you out getting another pair of boots?
Oh no, I got enough Tony Lama boots.
All right,
both feet are happy.
Well, if you need a hat or anything, you let me know.
I got hats too. I was on the board of directors of Tony Lama, but we sold it to Justin.
Yeah, and
that's what happened there. So, and I looked funny in a hat.
I saw you do a promo shot for the NFR, and I think it was 1986. And yeah, you look good in the hat. You were fine.
Well, when you rope, you have to wear a hat.
Yep.
But what I would do, I'd put it on the back of my head, so when the horse came out, the hat usually fell off.
Exactly. And I know some barrel racers that do that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have two granddaughters down in Texas that my son has twins, and they're in the rodeo world right now, and they're making money.
Yeah.
They're 16 years old and doing really well. So God bless.
Yeah.
It's a great world,
I agree. It's the best industry I've ever been in. I mean, the people I work with they're just good people.
And we're a pretty religious family, and it really does help me, boy. I'll tell you, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. It's a
joy, and thank you. It's an honor to be with you, my friend. Thank you. God bless.
Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.